All right, everyone, we have good economic news. The bad news, of course, is that the return of jobs in the wake of the far-left coronavirus paranoia lockdown has slowed. The good news is we still added 1.4 million jobs, and unemployment now is a bit below 9%. It's at about the same level that it was in, I think, 2013 or thereabouts. We've ameliorated 50% of all the job loss damage done. Now, there's a huge way to go. We need to re-elect Trump. We need to kick out as many blue state governors and far-left mayors as possible. You need ballot initiatives to prevent anything like this from ever happening again. This nation is fundamentally endangered by the kind of economic damage that can be done by a paranoid and ludicrous response to a pandemic that initially a lockdown made sense for, because we didn't know what we were dealing with. Once we did, once we realized it was not killing the average person that got it, once we realized that topical methods could control the spread, once we realized that the biggest thing you can do is just try not to sneeze on people, essentially, in many cases, it made no more sense to lock anything down. Everything should be 100% reopened at the moment. If you want to mandate that taxpayer-funded mass transit comes with wearing a mask, okay, well, that's one thing, of course. That's a collective sort of thing. The libertarian in me, not a big fan of that either, but it's legally justifiable in a roundabout sense, so we'll just ignore it for now. There's no reason to have restrictions on people that are out in the open walking down the street. There's no reason to have restrictions on the number of people that can be inside a business. There's no reason to have restrictions on basically anything, extended travel restrictions and so forth. If we get rid of those, we can probably redouble the rate of job recovery. Of course, the blue states and blue mayors won't do that. They're afraid unemployment will be below 8% probably on election day. That's not that bad historically. We were told by Barack Obama years ago that that was the new norm and we could expect that forever. Trump managed to deliver near record lows in unemployment among most blocks of groups of people and was actually rising swiftly in the polls before everyone decided to lock everything down. And by the way, that had nothing to do with the election. It had absolutely nothing to do with the political situation and them getting very, very worried about it being morning in America again and Trump winning in a landslide election. They're terrified of it. That's why this is happening. Ultimately, it boils down to economics and thus politics. That's basically what half of this is about. Anyway, adding 1.4 million jobs takes the unemployment down more than a point. That's excellent. It's slower than before, but that was predictable. Of course it's going to slow down because the initial surge in new jobs, the restoration of those that had been, basically wiped out by coronavirus, it wouldn't be sustainable because after just 3 months or so, the unemployment rate would be back to normal. As long as there continues to be a lockdown or some restrictions, the number of jobs will be less. And the reason why is, like, if a business is open but it's at 50% capacity, it only needs 50% of its employees. It'll go broke trying to pay them all. So it makes more sense to fire every other employee or drop them all to part-time. That's the other part. This doesn't take into consideration the fact that some people have returned to work but they've got less hours or they've got lower wages. That is a problem. And that's something that unfortunately in some of these industries may become long-term. This is definitely expediting, by the way, the silver lining to this, ultimately, to the economic damage of coronavirus is that it's gotten people more into getting things shipped to them. It's gotten people more into remote work, and there are vast segments of our economy that could become a remote workforce. This would be great. This would be great. Efficiency-wise, this would be wonderful. Silicon Valley would no longer be a monolith. Look, half the people that work at these places don't need to physically be there at Google HQ or Twitter HQ. They should be able to move to a place where they pay less taxes. They can add more to the economy. They'll vote with their feet. The representation will be more proper. The fact that a huge-ass corporation happens to exist in your state because of a tax shelter doesn't mean that you should have millions of extra votes, essentially. We can crack that monopoly apart real quick. California will wither like a goddamn raisin, like a grape on the vine in Napa Valley on a very hot summer day during a drought. When the government tells you you can't water your plants, it becomes a little bit of a problem unless you're into xericulture. Yeah, I think this is great. Unemployment falling is a good thing. And there are people out there, unfortunately, they're political hacks, basically, that are upset about this. The Democrats come out, well, fewer jobs were added than last month. We're going through a cool down. No fucking shit. Yeah, some of those jobs are permanently lost. A lot of small businesses have been wiped out by the recession caused at this point. In the wake of the first month of lockdown, every other bit of economic damage has been the result of gubernatorial decision-making. None of it has goddamn anything to do with Trump or the federal government at large. You can't even blame the Democrats on the federal level. You can't blame Pelosi for what Northam does. You can't blame Chuck Schumer for what Newsom does. You can't do that. They've got wide latitude because a disaster had been declared already. An emergency was declared, giving the governors more power. Some of them have chosen to misuse it. Like our esteemed governor in the state of Vermont, Phil Scott, who decided inexplicably Vermont has virtually no cases, virtually no deaths week over week. The lowest case total in the whole fucking country. What does our idiot governor do? The only Republican governor, I believe, to order a partial lockdown. Well, everyone needs to wear a mask in public places. We're only going to have 50% restaurant capacity. It's pointless. For a tourist state like Vermont that thrives, by the way, on small downtown businesses, Phil Scott's the worst goddamn thing to happen to our state in a very long time. I think one time during the Civil War, a bunch of Confederates came down from Canada and invaded a town for a few hours. That's the last time that something significant has happened in our fucking state. Maybe Hurricane Irene, I suppose. Which, by the way, I had a recording of. It was very popular at the time. I mean, it makes no sense. Now, unemployment will fall a lot further if these governors would get out of the way and stop being superstitious. You're peddling snake oil. You're literally peddling like witchfinder general sort of superstition. Well, if everyone doesn't wear a hazmat suit and everything's not remote and the kids don't have plastic shields around their desks in school, grandma will die. No, she won't, probably. Most of these people have already encountered the virus anyway. This virus that managed to spread over most of the known world in the course of a single month, trust me, has transmitted to far more people than you've tested. Stop worrying about goddamn everything. It's like a sky is falling situation with some of these people, ultimately. But I'm very happy that we've got a good economic report. Remember, we've only got 2 more before we have the election. Let's hope it keeps moving in a good direction. And it probably will. I mean, there's no reason to believe that it's going to suddenly reverse course unless more governors decide to use their state-level 10th Amendment guaranteed power to fuck their own populations. Yeah, it's not Trump's recession, it's the Democratic governor's recession at this point. That's about all. Peace out.